Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video we are going to be focusing on fencing in our property. We used a U-Haul to transport a lot of the equipment and materials that we would need for this project just because we don't really own a big pickup truck and we didn't want to put too much wear and tear on our own van. So we opted to go to Tractor Supply, put a huge order in, and just bring it all back in a U-Haul. And as you can see, there is all of our materials that we are going to be using for this project. We had some other miscellaneous things to take care of as well, such as building this gorilla cart to be able to tote around said materials. And later we were able to lay out the gate for the front as well as the post. And we didn't have much more time after that, but we did enjoy this gorgeous sunset. The next day, we officially got started by digging some holes. Starting out, we used this just basic post digger. We were trying to get at least 2.5 feet down if we could. In some spots that wasn't really the case. I did try to mark on the post where that 2-foot mark was, so we would have kind of a good understanding as to how deep we needed to go down, but we ran into the infamous caliche of Arizona. And this is like a concrete level we had to try to break through. And so Paul started out at first by trying to manually get through it. And we had to bring out the big guns, or big jackhammer in this case, in order to get through that concrete-like layer. After we were able to get the post placed into the ground, Paul went around and would tamp down the earth around it. Seeing as we had broken up a lot of the caliche, we didn't see a reason to have to use concrete for this case. But we were able to get those main posts put up. And the next step of the process is actually creating the H-brace, or the cross wooden post to go in between. So here Paul is drilling some holes in order to be able to drive the nails through. And here's just a general overlook of our process of digging those holes. So it was kind of a back and forth of the post digger, the shovel, and the jackhammer. We had plenty of visits from curious cows in the distance, although Paul had to drive them away just so that they wouldn't come in and accidentally break their legs in one of the many holes that we dug. The next morning it was up bright and early. Paul made just a standard breakfast that we're used to, of just oatmeal and coffee. And then we were back at it once more. You'll see in this shot the caliche I'm talking about. It's that white ring all the way around. That's the stuff we have to break through. It's like a concrete layer. Here's the process of us filling in and setting the post, and then Paul tamping around with that manual tamper. Eventually, though, after a couple days of continuous digging, we were able to get all of the corner post and front post set. Since we had our H braces in place, we were going to go ahead and get the gates put up on the main entrance. Paul drilled some holes in the side in order to get the screws in there for the gate. We had to make just a few minor adjustments on the gate to make sure that we got everything nice and level. But we had one gate finally done, and then eventually the other. Unfortunately, we had to take a little bit of a break because the temps drove way more below what we're comfortable with dealing with, so we headed out a few hours away to Yuma, Arizona to soak in some sun and stay warm. So we were driving once again through the familiar farm belt of Arizona. It's so interesting seeing all the different greens and produce growing out here and knowing that it's going all over the country during the wintertime season. And here you'll see just a few shots along the way of a lot of the migrant workers actually out there actively picking and cutting produce. We eventually made it to a familiar spot. Those who have watched us for a while know that this is Mitri Lake, and this is a nice little spot just on the outskirts of Yuma. Although we did not have a lake view this time, we were able to find a very nice isolated spot. And this is all free camping. While we stayed here, we decided to do a nice civic duty and go around and actually collect bottles, but we were honestly being selfish because these bottles were coming home with us for our future building projects that we'll get into a little bit later. Obviously, we didn't pick anything that looked a little suspicious or had bodily fluids or anything gross like that in it, but we did our civic duty of helping clean up some of this BLM land while also helping us along the way. And after about a week, we decided to exit from Yuma and head back on eastward towards our property. And we were back to it. This time Paul was finishing up some of the cross brace wiring on the H-post braces. And here you see him actually twisting it to create the tension and to pull the H posts together. We were reminded very well why we are putting this fence in on this tiny little part of our parcel. You'll see one of the culprits out there in the distance. Next up, we started marking our wood posts to get ready for the barbed wire process. We would lay out and run the barbed wire down the way, but then we'd have to make certain that it wasn't going to snag on anything. Here you see Paul carrying the T-post. We had already laid one round of barbed wire around, and so it was time to lay out our T-post and get those placed into the ground. We spaced them out around 12 foot, and then Paul would drive those down into the ground. We were delayed, but not by anything necessarily too terrible. We had some rain coming through the area, but this gave us an awesome opportunity to see the water flow on our property and also see where things would pull up as well. This helps us with our permaculture studies and also water retention practices. Eventually this guy's let us get a little bit of a break in, and we were able to go outside and try to finish up some more T-post and run some more barbed wire along the way. You'll see some of our posts are slightly crooked. That's because we were hitting a lot of rocks or something and we just couldn't quite get it straight, and so we just kind of left it as is. We didn't mean for this to be perfect, and we are by means no experts on fence building. Once the barbed wire is run, we use this handy goldenrod tool, which is a fence splicer and stretcher. So we would place the barbed wire into this tool, and it would essentially kind of work as like a come along in a way, and would pull everything to create that nice tension on our barbed wire. Afterwards, once the barbed wire was set, we would go around and put the T-post clips on there and twist them around the barbed wire using this neat little tool. And the final step of the process, once we got all 4 layers of wire run, is putting in the fencing stays, which is a very simple process, a little almost cathartic to be able to do, just twisting these fence stays in place on through all of the layers of wire. And finally, we had a fence. Thanks for watching, my friends. It's all we have for you on this episode. Take care. See you next time.